Yes, please.
This is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director for the city. Good evening, everyone. I just want to share a few housekeeping items for tonight's Zoom meeting. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the city's YouTube channel and cable channel 25. Please remember to mute yourself during the meeting when you are not speaking. The chat function for this public meeting is disabled. All chats will go directly to me. All board members, please keep your video on. All others can keep your video off unless you are participating during the meeting. If you have any trouble, you can send me a chat. The city reserves the right to mute people or turn individual videos off to minimize distractions during the meeting. And please remember to state your name each time you speak for the benefit of those participating remotely. Now I'll turn it back over to Kira.
Welcome, everybody. I hope your week is okay. Let me bring up my agenda. All right, my agenda went down. Does anybody have the agenda up that we could put on the split? Can you put the agenda on the split screen?
I don't have it up, but I can certainly read out the items for the agenda. So the first item, and I'm sorry, this is Kathy Richardson, the city's interim sustainability director. The first item is to call meeting to order and roll call.
All right, I call the meeting to order. How do I can't remember how I do the roll call. Do I call people? I just call people, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Stanley?
Yes, I'm here.
Deborah? Okay, Johnson?
Yes.
Ben?
Here. Yes.
Sarah?
Here.
Nancy?
Here.
Mattie?
Here.
Mattie, are you officially on the board now?
Yes.
That is great freaking news. Welcome to the board. We are so happy to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I called the meeting to order. What's next on the agenda?
Introductions, new board member, Mattie Bell.
Mattie, do you want to take a minute to talk? I know that's kind of putting you on the spot, but I would love it if you would introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Mattie. I use they, them pronouns. I am a longtime resident of Lawrence. I moved here when I was a kid and went away for college and came back. Pretty interested in stopping climate change. I think serving on the Sustainability Advisory Board could be a great way to do that. And I really care about Lawrence and the community, so that's why I applied.
Well, we are really happy to have you. We really have needed some youth and I was muted. We are so happy to have you, Mattie. That is really great. Okay,
Kira, you might, maybe each board member wants to say a few words so they can meet Mattie as well.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. Mattie, I'm Ben Sikes. I've been here for about 8 years. I'm a professor at KU and also a scientist at the Kansas Biological Survey. And I've been on the Sustainability Advisory Board for, I think, about 18 months or something like that. Yeah, and I'm championing the revisions of the weed ordinance you may have seen in past times of the year.
Mattie, I'm Nancy Muma. I'm a new member also. I've only been here a couple months on the board. I'm also a professor at KU in pharmacology and toxicology, and I'm championing the Climate Action Plan Subcommittee.
Mattie, welcome. I'm Stan Rasmussen. I'm the vice chair of the board, and I'm a director of an environmental and energy office for the U.S. Army and Department of Defense. And I've been on the board since August, so not a full year.
Steve Kramer, Sustainability Board, and I've been on since October. Small business owner and formerly out of corporate America, and a lot of work in sustainability with Walmart, corporation, and others on sustainability.
Hi, Mattie and everybody else. I'm Sarah Chenoweth. I've been a board member for just over a year. I'm a KU student about to graduate with my master's in public administration. And I serve as the liaison between this board and the Douglas County Food Policy Council.
Hi, Mattie. My name is Kay Johnson, and I'm the Sustainability and Environment Manager for Proseco, and I've been in Lawrence about 8 years. I've been on the board. This is my second term, so this is my third year to be on the board.
Hi, Mattie. I'm Deb Ford. I've been on the board about 2 years. I'm an architect and I'm certified. And happy to have you.
Great, and thanks everyone, and I'm excited to work with you. And I'm Mattie.
Okay, what's next on the agenda? I'm sorry, I still don't have it up.
This is Kathy Richardson, the Interim Sustainability Director. The next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes. The February 9th, 2022 minutes were provided within the agenda. The action is to approve the minutes if there are no edits or corrections.
Okay.
If there are no edits or corrections, I will make a motion to approve last month's agenda.
Second.
Okay, so the minutes are approved.
You'll want to call for a vote.
Sorry.
You have a
All right.
motion and a second.
Sorry, I swear to God, I'll eventually get better at the Roberts rules. Deb Ford, can you vote please?
I approve.
Ben?
I approve. I did want to note that at least on the link on the website that the PDF goes to a City of Lawrence iCompass sign-in that I don't know how to sign into. So my guess is the public. Just a point maybe of order. I don't know if it's Roberts or whose rules, but just it's hard to see the meeting. I couldn't find the actual meeting.
This is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. Were you able to view the minutes of February by clicking on the packet and going down to it? Or did you not have a chance to review the minutes?
I did review them through the links through the SAB's board website where it has our agenda. That link didn't work.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I believe a couple others had mentioned the same issues, and we will get that fixed in the future. There's a glitch there. So thanks, Ben.
Stanley?
Yes.
Mattie, do I call a new member? You were, or I'll call on Nancy, sorry.
Yes.
Stephen?
Abstaining, I wasn't able to see the minutes either.
Okay.
Yes.
Did I call everybody? Yeah, who? No? Okay,
I mean, you briefly called me. I'll abstain just because I wasn't a board member.
okay, thanks, man. Okay, and I'm still trying to look at the agenda on my phone so that this isn't so clunky. I'm sorry. What's next on the agenda?
This is Kathy Richardson, the Interim Sustainability Director. The next agenda item is Sav administration. First item on here is there is one board member vacancy remaining. So We welcome Mattie to the Sustainability Advisory Board, but we still do have another remaining vacancy. If you know of any others who are interested, they can apply through the city's website. The second item on there is the discussion for location for future hybrid board meetings. And I can give a little bit of information on this, and then the board can discuss and decide what they'd like to do for the future. So at the last meeting, we mentioned that many of the city's advisory boards and commissions were going to start transitioning to a hybrid board meeting. And as early as April, some advisory boards and commissions have decided to take a little bit longer to transition, but Sustainability Advisory Board is definitely welcome to make the decision to transition. And what that means is we would have a location where we meet in person, those that would like to meet in person, but there would also be the option to join the meeting via Zoom. So some board members may not feel comfortable yet meeting in person. And so they would be allowed to join via Zoom, as well as the public. The public has a meeting place if they want to come to, or they can join via Zoom. There was some discussion as possible locations if the Sustainability Advisory Board would like to have the in-person component. There was conversation about going back to the Lawrence Parks and Rec office building in South Park and using their conference room like before the COVID pandemic. There was also some discussion as the possibility of the Sustainability Advisory Board meeting here at City Hall in the City Commission Room. One thing I will mention about the City Commission Room, because of the night that these board meetings occur, there is another group that meets right after the Sustainability Advisory Board. So there is a little bit more of a limit as to how long the meeting can last. And I know in the past, when we've done the Zoom, we've kind of tried to wrap up by 7:15, but because you're moving groups of people in and out of the room, you know, we'd really need to end the meeting by 7. The Parks and Rec conference room does not have another meeting on that evening. So there's a little bit of more time for the board to meet and get through agendas if that's important. So I just wanted to mention those two options. If the board has any other suggestions on locations, I can look into those. I did have a question from one of the board members as to whether the city would provide laptops for each board member during these meetings, those that come in person. And I found out that the advisory boards and commissions are not provided with laptops. I do believe the Planning Commission had their own funding and had purchased laptops before the pandemic, but currently the way that the room is set up for the in-person component is there is one camera, a wide camera that will just, you know, kind of capture the table of all the advisory board members, and there might be some folks from the public as well, but there's not individual cameras that face each one of the board members. Like, for example, if you've recently watched the city commission meeting, the city commissioners each have a camera that displays them on that Zoom meeting. But these group meetings with the advisory boards are one big camera just kind of capturing the whole room. And then of course the audio component. And in some of these advisory boards, there are members that decide to stay home and join via Zoom, and that is going to be an option moving forward as well.
So I have a question about the ability of us to communicate well in the building other than the where you're located now, Kathy. I mean, will we be able to see each other and speak well to each other if we've got the hybrid going?
Sure. This is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. Nancy, if the Sustainability Advisory Board decides to transition to a hybrid meeting, let's say next month, and let's say the advisory board decides to meet at the Lawrence Parks and Rec building in South Park, I would be, as your staff liaison, present in person there to open the building, close the building, do all that, be there to participate in the meeting with you. So I wouldn't be here at the City Commission room. They do have cameras set up in the conference room over at the Parks and Rec building. And I do believe that some advisory board meetings have been occurring from that location already. So we will have the technology to make sure that there's the Zoom component.
Mattie Bell, board member, if we were to transition to a hybrid meeting, would it be possible to have a mask policy? And if so, what would that be for, like, what would the preference be for folks?
This is Ben Sikes, Sustainability Advisory Board member. Kathy, there's a standing policy for City Hall right now for masks, is there?
This is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. Currently, masks are optional, and all city buildings have signs with the masks are optional. That may change depending on, the COVID cases and such, but at this time they are optional. Now, if the Sustainability Advisory Board would like to discuss and, the possibility of if everybody felt more comfortable wearing masks, you're certainly welcome to, again, it's optional, but if you wanted to all agree to wear masks, that is something that you can discuss as the board.
Mattie Bell, board member. I think I would generally be interested in hybrid meetings, but that's definitely predicated on masks being worn just for safety. I know that COVID numbers are down, but the BA variant of Omicron is still a concern, and I believe cases are going up at LMH. So I enjoy the energy of meeting in person, but that would be like a safety measure that I would want in order to feel comfortable meeting in person.
Kara McPherson, Sustainability Chair. I would just say I appreciate Mattie saying that because I have lupus and a bunch of other immune diseases, and I know everybody else is kind of over the pandemic, and I am too, but I already am dealing with heart damage from my last case of COVID, even though I'm boosted, and it seems like I don't have any immunity to it. So I would really hope that everybody would remember that the very basic function of a sustainability board is to protect people. So I would hope that if we start meeting in person again, or with a hybrid, that we follow the science and wear masks just to, if nothing else, protect other people. Does anybody else have any comments about what Mattie and I have said?
I will just say I have no problem wearing a mask when we're in person, and I suspect by next month it may be a civic mandate again.
I agree. The case numbers seem to be going up, and I would be very happy if everyone wore masks. It's Nancy Muma, SAB member.
We just approve this by acclamation, just as a general aye, or more importantly, is there anybody objecting? If we accept this by acclamation, and if there's no objections, wear a mask if you're in person at the meeting.
For how long? Is there a sunset date on this? Is it for the rest of the year? Is it for how long?
Well, I think at this point, it's pretty hard to say, Stan. It's maybe it'd be easier to say it's time to lose the masks. To say, I mean, at some point later on. Cycles on this thing have been 2 to 3 months. So if you want to, we could say through the in June, July, through until the August meeting, and then reconsider again at the August meeting.
I think it would be good to put a deadline on it like that so that we can reconsider it. So it's not indefinite.
Is everyone okay with a reconsideration of the mask requirement for the August meeting? We'll discuss it in July. Again, just move by unanimous acclamation. Everybody nod your head.
This has been Sikes, Sav Board member. I just wanted to make clear that I don't think we can do that for ourselves. I don't think we could probably do that for the public, right? We can't require the public, if they come to City Hall, to wear masks, but many of them may anyways, but I'm comfortable wearing one if we're in person.
This is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. I will check on that, on whether or not the meeting can require masks for all those in attendance, including the public. I will clarify and make sure. Again, you can, right now it's optional, and the signs are posted on the city buildings, but this might be a situation where a closed meeting in a conference room, you would be allowed to just make sure that the rules to wear a mask.
Mattie Bell, board member. Sorry, I just had the thought. I think also, like, it's good to remember that we're discussing a hybrid meeting, not everyone being in person. So if you don't want to wear a mask, then you can be online. But also, like, having, been in hybrid meetings and stuff, it can be really hard for someone who's online to get a word in if there's a lot of conversation in person or to hear and stuff. So I think making it as safe for all board members as possible would be a great goal to have.
Does anybody have any other comments? No? Okay, so the next meeting on the agenda is the discussion on subcommittees and goal setting retreat. Can you explain what the goal setting retreat is, Kathy?
Yeah, I'm sorry, and just going back to the previous item, was there a preferred location? I do need to schedule that with those 2 rooms. So if the board can give me some direction as to which meeting location you'd prefer.
I like the Parks and Rec building. I think it's cozy. Oh, buddy, gotta get.
I like it too.
Mattie Bell, I'm fine with Parks and Rec.
I think I joined after COVID started, so I've never seen anything other than Zoom. I think I went one time to where you are, Kathy, so I'm comfortable with that for sure.
Okay, I will go ahead and reach out to Parks and Rec to get that booked for next month. Thank you. The next item, and I'm sorry, Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. The next item, discussion on subcommittees and goal setting retreat. So there was some conversation that actually started at that February meeting about the possibility to revisit what the subcommittees are and the priorities of this board, and whether or not that is still where the board wants to focus your time and energy. There was an idea from Stan on maybe it is a good time to put together a goal setting retreat. These have happened in the past, just a little bit of history, and I'm not sure on the recent past on how that was handled with the Jasmine, but in in the previous, within the last 10 or 15 years, this advisory board sometimes met with a facilitator. I did check on that. Stan had asked me to see if that was a possibility, a paid facilitator for the Sustainability Advisory Board. Currently, the city is not providing that paid facilitation for all the advisory board and commissions. So the goal setting sessions are really led by the staff liaisons, in one of two ways. You could set up a meeting where you're going to focus all your time on goal setting, and we can walk through that exercise, or sometimes the advisory boards and commissions will select a different day and time, maybe a day with a little bit more time and focused for a focused conversation on establishing those new goals and what those new subcommittees may be. So there's a lot of options there, but again, it would be a facilitation led by staff. And the conversation on this item is whether or not that the advisory board right now feels like it's time to revisit those subcommittees and the focus areas. And if you want to go ahead and schedule a goal setting session.
Kathy, a question to you. You and I had talked about the paid staff who were looking into the funding, grants, and all of that part and what might apply. You had told me that you were actually the liaison into that group. Could you give us an update if we have any information on the funding side to consider, or if that's going to come in such a time that we should schedule a retreat after that?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. I was going to mention this in the update with the staff report, but on the grants, city grants, as I had mentioned previously, the city has hired TFG. They are a group that's helping. It's the Ferguson group. They are helping the city monitor the grant opportunities and proactively seek grants with us. So what I shared with Steve is that they have put together a federal funding needs assessment for the city of Lawrence, and that report has been provided to staff. I did reach out to city manager's office to see if that was a document that we could share with a larger group. And at this time, it's being reviewed internally by staff, so it hasn't been released publicly. There's a lot of information, obviously, on federal funding, but this group actively meets once a month. And, like I said, right now we're reviewing the information that TFG has provided to us.
Do you have some sort of time frame for when we would be able to access that information and tie it into this possible retreat?
I don't have a time frame. I do know in my conversations with Diane Stoddard, the assistant city manager, that the city would be releasing an update soon, but I don't know what that time frame is, what soon means.
This has been Sikes, Sav Board member. Kathy, so that's a kind of a top-down approach, right? Like, let's do a comprehensive review of all the potential grants and things like that. Another way to think about it is if we set our priorities and then work towards, what an individual priority might have from a grant perspective. Since we don't have a timeline, is that something that you would suggest instead? Like if, for example, it was about plastic bags, right? Or if it was about weeds, green infrastructure or something like that, the pursuit of those singular goals, like that would be more like a bottom up, right? Angle to, because I think many of us agree that the underlying opportunities through grants and things like that are really essential to progress on a lot of these fronts. Whether or not we do that from like here's all the potential grants that could be useful for the city, and then here's a subset for the SAB, or we come up with specific goals for individual priorities, and then we try and pursue, finding the specific grants just for that small area. Those are kind of two different approaches.
This is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. Thanks for that different look at how to go about this. I will mention, as some of you have been on the board for a little bit, received a presentation from the city manager on the city strategic plan last year, at the end of last year. And, the city strategic plan is where our work is focused. So even as we look at grant opportunities, they have to speak to that strategic plan, right? So those key progress indicators. And as you heard from the city manager, there are several in the environmental sustainability side within the outcome groups. So just so you know, we are looking at it with the lens of, what is going to move the needle for our KPIs and our strategic plan. So there's already a base there on where the city's priorities are, even in terms of environmental sustainability. It would be good to revisit that, and that should be part of the conversation within any goal setting session of this advisory board, since the Sustainability Advisory Board really, speaks on that environmental sustainability work that the city is doing and advises the governing board.
This is Stan Rasmussen, SAB board member. When I was on the planning commission in the city, we usually had an annual gathering to discuss. With the planning commission, it was more to focus in on the city's Horizon 2020 plan, the development plan for the community, and to talk about some other issues that we might encounter as planning commissioners. I think it would be good for us to communicate and talk about our vision for what we'd like to try to accomplish in the coming year, things we'd like to do, topics we might want to cover. So I think it would be good for us to try to find a time where we can have this discussion, reflect on or look at the subcommittees that exist currently. Are they still valid? Do we need to change those? There are some that I don't think have any action going on in them. Maybe it's time to consider another subcommittee, a different type. So I would hope that we could consider this.
This is Sav Board, Sav committee member. I agree with Stan. I think it'd be good to do a work session and get together and define vision and strategies for the coming year.
This has been Sikes, Sav Board member. Do you all see those priorities that we create as coming mainly from our group or from public input? Right. So it's just a different kind of perspective on, I think the weed thing came up because people from the community brought that before the Sav Board member, not because we had that originally. I'm just curious if you all see how you all see that process unfolding for prioritization.
Mattie Bell, board member. I am inclined towards like community input for those priorities, just because I think, with 7 or 8 people, there's definitely a limit to, the ideas we can come up with, and we don't necessarily know all the needs of the community, and we could serve it better getting that input, but I don't know what the process for that looked like with the Noxious Weeds subcommittee, or what that might look like if we choose to go that direction.
This is Kay Johnson, Sustainability Advisory Board member. I feel like we should have some set priorities, but they shouldn't be too many, given that we are headed toward the end of the year, really. I mean, it's April, and we need to decide a few things that we're going to focus on instead of a lot of things. So That's my opinion, but I think that a board retreat is the best way to get to the heart of that. And then we need to figure out how we add that public input to those priorities. I think the board needs to look at its priorities first, and then we can see how we can add the community input. That's my opinion.
Nancy Muma, board member. We're getting a lot of community input for the Climate Action Plan. So that's coming forth over the summer. So we're going to get a lot of community input from that approach. I think right now we just need to focus on a couple of things, like Kay said, that we as members of the board would like to focus on until we get community input, and then can put that all together with the climate action.
Steve Kramer, board member. Does anybody have an idea of the structure of this? Timing, place, duration? Then maybe we can start working up a little bit of an action plan to get ready for a retreat. So I think there is a considerable amount of work and preparation if we want to do this well, and if we want to do it in such a way that we actually get some things done this year.
Mattie Bell, board member. I think maybe one of the first questions to ask is, would we want to do it before or after the Climate Action Plan data is analyzed? Or I guess if we do want to have community input, because I think the Climate Action Plan, it would be a really good resource for that kind of information. But as Nancy said, it's going to be coming out in the summer, and I know we're like getting close to the summer, but as Kay brought up, like we are also, we only have a certain number of meetings per year, so.
Can we recognize Dawn Hawkins? She's had her hand up to make comment for a while.
This is
Hi, thanks, Nancy. My camera's not working on this computer. Can you guys hear me? Yes, okay. Well, I think it's great that the board is considering doing a retreat, and I encourage you to do it as soon as possible. I recall some recent, I don't attend all meetings, but I recall some recent meetings where there was a lot of brainstorming and trying to figure out what the board's priorities are. So at least there's a good starting point with that list, because a lot of time and effort went into that. I think the trouble is whittling things down so that the board can figure out its priorities for the coming year, because you can't do everything. And I do agree with Mattie Bell that it's important to continue to gather input from the public, but that even can be designed to have an hour at the retreat, or a lunch hour or something where the public is invited. I got to participate in one of the public events that was designed to get the public to participate in the recent, strategic planning process. And it was I can't remember the company, if it's the one that Kathy mentioned or who ran it, but it was very well done. And it really, there were so many people that came through I think that was at the Carnegie Building. And so it's a really good way to get a foundation to get a pulse on the public and help with figuring out, because it's so hard to choose from that long list of what your priorities could be. So anyway, I encourage you to do the retreat as soon as possible. If there is a way to incorporate, to continue to get public input, from people, like me, by either an online survey, which the board's talked about before, or doing a public component, an hour or two of your retreat. Could be a fun thing to do. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Dawn. Does anybody else have any comments?
This is Stan Rasmussen with the SAB board again. I want to kind of emphasize what Kay mentioned, that we not try to put too many things on our plate. I think we need to focus on a few things. And I think another purpose of this, if we have a retreat or a separate meeting, is to give some assistance to Kara in helping plan the year's agendas, because these agendas don't create themselves. And it's not Kathy's responsibility to create the agenda for us. She has to have input on what do we want to see on the agenda? Who do we want to hear from? What do we want to learn about? And so we need some of that input too, just to help structure our agenda for the coming year. And so it's not just new topics that we're going to take on. It's just helping figure out, okay, what do we want to do at our meetings? Can we have a little organization to that? And I think that would be very helpful.
I appreciate that, Stan. I appreciate your support. Kathy, do we need to take a vote on this?
This is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. Not really a vote. There's no action to it, but a discussion that maybe can help me, give me direction as to how I can support the Sustainability Advisory Board in scheduling a goal setting session. So I didn't clearly hear when and if you definitely want to have a goal setting session. I can absolutely set things up and get the ball rolling. As Steve mentioned, these take some work and preparation. So if I had a sense as to when, or, you know, if the board chooses tonight to just think about it and talk about it at the next meeting and decide then, that's good too. I just let me know how I can support the board.
Nancy Muma, SAB member, I would suggest that we try to have it in the next few weeks and go ahead and do this, because this will set the agenda for the next year. So I think putting it off is not in our best interest.
Mattie Bell, SAB board member. Kathy, how long do you think you would need if we, like, starting from, I guess, tomorrow, to plan something like this?
This is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. Thanks for that question. I would want to give it at least a month's time to schedule a location and get you know, the preparation completed before then. In the past, the Sustainability Advisory Board has requested public input, as in they've put a call out that they're going to have a goal setting session and are wanting to hear from folks. That takes some time. If this advisory board does not want to skip that step, then we wouldn't need as much time to put this together. There always is some pre-work too. So it's really about what you all have time to do as well, because there are usually questions that you get to kind of think about and respond to prior to coming to the goal setting session. So you're ready and set to be an active part of that conversation.
This is Stan Rasmussen with the SAB. I'd be happy to volunteer to draft a rough agenda for a gathering. If the board members want, I'd welcome input from anybody who would like to give me suggestions. I would think we need a minimum of 4 hours if you're going to have meaningful time together. I would say when we did the Planning Commission meeting, the retreats, those were day-long affairs. I'm not suggesting that we need to do that, but you need to have some quality time for discussion. I just thinking off the top of my head would probably be good to have a short session on the city's strategic plan, highlighting the environmental parts of that, have a short session reminding, there are so many of us who are new here, to remind us of kind of the mission of the SAB, and then a couple of topics, and you're going to eat up 4 hours very fast. But I would volunteer to draft an agenda if people are interested, that we could then maybe discuss at our next meeting in May. And I think we should be tentatively planning something in June then.
This has been Sikes, Sav Board member. I feel really comfortable with that. I think a half a day thing, Kathy, with the timeline that you set out, if we announce now that we'd like public comments on what, those priorities, as you were saying, those can be ready or submitted by our May meeting. And then if, we could plan something in like the 6-week timeline or by the June meeting or something like that to have this half-day retreat. I like those options as well, Stan, that you laid out as some of the key components for those foundational elements that we can take maybe, at least an hour or probably half of the meeting. If we're talking about a 4-hour meeting, just what have we, what's the goals of the SAB board? How do those plug into the strategic plan? Well, we've done this before, but we have enough turnover where it's important to remind us as well what the priorities have been for past groups within the SAB board and, where those are at. And especially in evaluating whether or not we should put those aside for the moment as we take up new things.
We recognize Michael Allman, whose hand's up.
Yeah, I'll call on Michael. Thanks, Nancy. Michael, do you have a comment?
Hi, yeah, thanks, Kira, Nancy. Just regarding the agenda of the Sustainability Advisory Board, not falling on Kathy Richardson as a burden to set that agenda. I just checked the bylaws, and the bylaws actually say Article 5, Section 3, the chairperson shall set the agenda. So, and however you progress, in these monthly meetings or in a retreat, whatever, it's really the chairperson who decides what goes on the agenda, which of course I assume she would take into consideration suggestions and input from the rest of the board and maybe the public.
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate your support. Does anybody else have any other comments? I will say, just speaking for myself, I think a retreat is a really good idea. We have a real problem with board cohesion and unity, and we have people who worry more about who's in charge rather than just, getting down to brass tacks and getting actions of item worked on and completed. So I think a retreat is a great idea. And I will say, from an activist perspective, it's been really challenging to get people to come to these meetings, even pre-COVID, and challenging to get them to come back to meetings. Don and Michael are really kind of unusual in their devotion and in their support and their dedication. I have had members of the public talk to me before about how that lack of board unity and camaraderie has not been comfortable for them. And we really do need input, and we really do need everybody in the city working on the climate action plan. So anything we can do that would help, set more clear and achievable goals, and that would help us with unity, I support. But we don't need to take a vote on this, you said, Kathy?
I'm sorry.
We don't need to take a vote on this. Do we just need to tell you that, yes, we do want to do it possibly in June?
This is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. Yes, so just whatever direction the board decides on. It sounded like the one item that was brought up is for Stan to draft an agenda for that retreat and bring it to the board in for the May meeting. So I can include that on the May agenda if that's what you would like to proceed with.
If Stan wants to work with me on setting the agenda, that would be great. We can get together and have a meeting about that and decide what we want to draft. Are you okay with that, Stan?
You're on mute.
Did I mute myself?
Oh, Stanley is.
Oh, Stan's on mute.
Oh, I'm on mute. I would be happy to provide you some input. I just volunteered to do it because it didn't sound like anybody else was going to, but it sounds like you want to do that. So I think that's great. I'll email you some suggestions.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. So should we move to the next agenda item, which is the staff report from Kathy?
The next agenda item is subcommittee reports. And there are 3 items on here. The first one is to receive an update from Noxious Weeds Ordinance Subcommittee.
Yeah, that's me. Hi, still Ben, Sav Board member. Quite a lot of meetings and a lot of great discussions, and we're working still to revise the ordinance. So the SAB subcommittee met at the end of March. We have some revisions ongoing. We talked specifically about where the materials might come from if we had these ordinance requirements. I emailed with the MARC architects that actually wrote the model ordinance, and they gave us insights on other municipalities that are using those model ordinances, as well as being willing to help us if they can in kind of an outside capacity. I did talk with a couple of local plant providers, pines as well as cottons, and I'm going to try and talk to Vinland Valley as well on the potential for them to provide things, but also, as our subcommittee brought up, whether or not that might conflict with some of the local nonprofits we have that provide native plants and things like that as part of their fundraising mechanisms, like the Master Gardeners and Monarch Watch and other things. I had some great discussions with individual SAB board members about the ordinance, and particularly things like how we might be able to stand up an incentive program that could connect with some of the grant things that we're looking at as well, so that it's not just a stick, but also that we can think about ways to create programs that will help both in new developments to integrate sustainable landscaping, as well as for people that want to retrofit their houses. I was able to meet with the city's environmental manager, Caitlin Dix, to link the ordinance with some of the city's stormwater requirements and goals, as well as to think about how that can play a role in the green infrastructure. And then Stan was able to set up a great meeting with Bobby Flory from the Home Builders Association. She's the Home Builders Association president, to try and get the perspective of how people that are building homes in our community might view the requirement for increased use of native plantings and the incorporation of those into the landscaping design. And so I feel like we're getting a lot of touch points across the community on how they might view these things and try to incorporate or at least deal with some of the ideas that are coming out of those in the revisions to the ordinance. So just moving forward, my goal is to have a new draft that I'll discuss with the subcommittee before our May meeting, and then hopefully present that draft to you all at the May meeting. I'm going to connect with county vegetation management leaders, which have been working on their own vegetation management plans, so that there's connectivity between the city and the county. And then I've actually been reviewing a lot of literature. Someone sent one today. That actually wasn't me. I don't know what that was, who sent that, but that was great. No Mow May Lawns. There's also some really interesting literature on landscape architecture and urban planning, one of which is these ideas of messy ecosystems, neat borders. So if you have like a messy ecosystem, but then maybe everybody else knows this, but I'm just learning about it. But like if you put like a nice neat border around like a messy ecosystem, then that has actually these positive social feedbacks where people don't seem to be as frustrated by how those things work. So anyways, these are kind of ideas that I'm certainly new to me, and I'm trying to connect those with how we actually write components into the ordinance. I think that's all I got. I may have missed a meeting. I did try and talk to a lot of people this last week.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks to Steve too for hosting a couple of the things where we were going. His coffee shop's awesome. Plug.
Does anybody have any questions about Ben's report?
This is Steve Kramer, SAB. There's not a question. I would just like to add, Ben has greatly understated the amount of work he's putting into this. I'm not sure how many different people he's talked to, but it's in the dozens. And I think it's a great example of how we can attack some of these different priorities we set during the retreat. He has located an enormous number of experts in the field. And the output of this is going to be fairly astonishing, I think. So nice work, Ben.
Thanks. Thank you all for taking interest. And I just kick it back to the subcommittee. There's a lot of really amazing people on the subcommittee as well that have given some great ideas. And then it's just following the trail of it. So there's a lot of people in our community, whether it's this or other sustainability initiatives, that I think, we have a really cool community that we can draw on a lot of resources. So, thanks. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Ben. Does anybody else have any other comments? I do want to thank you, along with Stephen. You really have done like so much work on this. It's kind of amazing. And like you've put in the kind of work where I can see other cities like using it as a reference point and a precedent. Like what you're doing is really, really important. And it's a really important project because it acts as an educational tool and messaging and policy. It's a really great project, and you're just killing it. Thanks, man. Does anybody have any questions for Ben?
Kira, Dawn had her hand up, but I wasn't sure.
Where are you, Dawn?
Oh, it's redundant at this point. I just was going to say the same thing that Stephen and Kara did. That Ben has put a lot of effort into making the connections needed to bring basically a solid product to you hopefully I think next May, so that you guys don't have to spend hours deliberating and trying to agree that this is something that we want to put before the City Commission. I say we, I mean you. And I say this as a member of that subcommittee who tries to attend all the meetings, but I see the emails and I've been happy to participate in those conversations. And I think that in conjunction with what the county is doing and changing the vegetation management plan there, it's a good time, I think, in our community for making some positive changes. So thanks, Ben, for all your work.
Okay, so we move on to the next item. I think that's you, Nancy.
So the subcommittee that I'm championing has been talking about priorities and working with the Climate Action Plan data that comes from the community engagement. And so we're going to work with that going forward and hope to get that soon. We talked about different other opportunities, such as composting and the plastics, and have decided to really put that on the back burner for the time being and really focus on the Climate Action Plan and putting that together along with the data from the community.
Thanks, Nancy. Does anybody have any questions or comments? No? Am I missing anybody from the public?
No.
No, I'm not missing Dawn or Michael or anybody. Okay. The next item was
Kira.
Yeah, sorry, Kathy. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you.
Hi, Kate Johnson, Sustainability Advisory Board member. I do want to add that, and Sarah may chime in here, but the governor did veto the plastics ban, the plastic ban for local governments. So I think we should pursue, personally, I think we should pursue in our goal setting discussion about at least education to the public. If we, I'm I feel certain, this is just my opinion, that somebody will try to bring it back. But I feel like that we should at least look at education. But that's my opinion. And we can talk about it with our retreat.
Thanks, Kay. I do think it's really important that we are aware of our political capital, and that we, because we are already into April, it's important that we manage our time and try not to spend too much time on something that we know is going to be fought at the state level. And I will just say, personally speaking, I've said this before, but I'll keep saying it. I think it's important that anything that's like a big policy recommendation coming out of the board is one that supports people and is less punitive. Like I think Ben's project is actually a perfect project for the new board to come out really strong with, because it's something that will support people who are already trying to do like climate resilient yards. It will bring in different members of small business. It's something that if we handle the political messaging on it and the outreach, that really could help. It could help us, but I do want us to remember that there's a lot of people who are extremely emotionally burdened right now, and any kind of recommendation where it's just from a banning or a punitive point of view could have unintended and negative political consequences. So as unpleasant as it is to think about politics, I do think we need to remember that anything we do is probably going to be blocked at this state level. So it's important to remember that if we do something that we know will be blocked or fought at the state level, that we work on the messaging of it. I don't know if I said that right. Does that, how do you feel when I say that? Does that seem, anybody have any feelings about what I said?
This is Kate Johnson, Sustainability Advisory Board member. I don't feel like that education would be blocked or anything like that. So I don't think that's in conflict with what you said, Kira.
Yeah, I agree. Education would be really important. Does anybody else have any comments? No? I'm not missing anyone, am I?
No.
No. Sarah, I hate to put you on the spot. I'm always doing that to you. I'm so sorry. Have you heard anything? I know you are in Topeka a lot, or you were in Topeka a lot. Are you hearing anything about the plastic bag ban?
I mean, this is Sarah, board member. It's just what Kay just said. The governor vetoed the ban, and I think it had that's going to stick, that they don't have enough to come back and overturn it. But I mean, yeah, it's come up the last couple of years. It's probably going to come up again next year. I don't think that that's necessarily a reason not to try, but I think probably at this point, education and incentives are our best bet.
Okay, that's good to hear. Thanks.
Mattie Bell, SAB board member. I think particularly in terms of the plastic bag ban, I mean, I was part of the conversation back in 2019 when like the SAB was considering a plastic bag ban back then. And I know that concerns that were brought up were like, you know, there are poor folks who use plastic bags. A lot of times, or maybe not a lot of times, but at times, plastic grocery bags are reused as small bags for small like bathroom trash cans or picking up after dogs and stuff like that. And I think, and that also, there has been research that has shown that after a plastic bag ban, there's an increase in purchasing of plastics from stores. and all of that stuff kind of had me more interested in incentives and education programs anyway, because like the cycle is reduce, reuse, recycle. So like reducing how much you need plastic bags is like the first step, and then reusing them and then recycling them, to try and keep them out of waste. There was a written public comment submitted about various plastic bag reduction initiatives around the country and in Canada. And I think like looking at some of those would be interesting. I know that I try to use reusable bags when possible, but those can cost a lot of money, depending on like where you're getting them. So a program that like maybe distributed them or like incentivize people to bring their own bags would be great.
Where'd Kay go? I lost you. Oh, there's Dawn. Dawn, do you have a comment?
Well, respectfully, I think the meeting ends at 7. Is that right? Seems like this board always gets kicked off by another meeting. So I just was going to suggest maybe the plastic bag discussion be a good retreat topic. But it is interesting, I think, as a good time if the city is going to pass something and this is the time to do it. Later will be a waste of time. But anyway, I am looking forward to the staff report, and it looks like you guys have a action item, a letter to support that looks kind of important. So I was just going to suggest maybe adding the plastic bag discussion to the retreat agenda.
Dawn. Thanks, Dawn. I do feel like the plastic bag ban hits on it covers a lot of different environmental issues, whether it's, the politics or education or incentives or the efficiency of bans, or whether it's even worth doing it. I personally think it's a waste of time because, we're not banning styrofoam. We're not banning 9 million other petrochemical byproducts. And it's an easy target for bad actors that can then, build bad feelings. So I actually think it's a really interesting subject because it encapsulates so many different feelings and emotions and aspects of environmentalism. So I agree. I think it would be an interesting thing to talk about at the retreat. Do we want to talk about this at the retreat then? Do we want to add this to the retreat agenda? Where'd Kay go? Kay, do you want to talk about, oh wait, Dawn's hand is up. Dawn?
I'm sorry, I just forgot to lower it.
This is Kay Johnson, Sustainability Advisory Board member. That is really what I suggested at the beginning, that it be added to the discussion.
And I appreciate that, Kay. Dawn, oh no, wait, Dawn just talked. Did anybody else have a comment?
Nancy Muma, I'd like to say, I think it's very important also. I agree with Kay. Let's add it to the agenda.
And this is Deb Ford. I agree, and I respect Dawn's comment, but I think that we should probably move on in the agenda since we're nearing 6:40 now.
Okay, I agree. We have my climate crisis declaration thing, but I would like to not talk about this time because we have a letter in support of the bus initiative. Kathy, can you talk to us about that?
This is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. I did want to just provide one update to that emergency declaration. Based on the conversation that the advisory board members had and some questions that were posed, I did reach out to the city's attorney's office with some of these questions. I have not yet received a response, but I did check up on it this morning, and they said they're preparing some responses for this advisory board. So hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have that information. And the questions that I heard from the advisory board members that I passed on to the city's attorney's office were, what is a declaration of an emergency for the city? Can a city advisory board declare an emergency? And if they can, how does the advisory board go about declaring an emergency? Has another city advisory board declared an emergency in the past? And then can the city commission declare an emergency? So those are the questions that were passed on to our city's attorney's office based on the conversation in February.
Thanks, Kathy. I appreciate that. It's really helpful.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the letter in support of the bus agenda?
Sure. Under staff report, we have 2 items on here, and I'll skip to the second item, and that's to consider the SAB letter of support for Lawrence Transit Grant. This was a late add to the agenda this afternoon, and I will mention that it is a time-sensitive item, and that is why we had to add that to the agenda today, as the letter would be due on April 22nd. It was brought to my attention that the SAB did approve a template support letter last year. And in going back to the minutes of August meeting, that template letter was approved through December 2021. So the board would have an action item tonight to either, approve this SAB letter of support or edit it as needed. I did also hear that there was some information from that meeting in August that the last paragraph was edited and was what the SAB approved. So if tonight you would like to go back to that language that was provided in August, we can do that as well, and then you can approve the letter as edited. And the Sustainability Advisory Board members can discuss.
Can you share that letter with us, Nancy Muma, SAB member?
Sure. Did you want the letter or the edit to the letter?
I haven't seen the letter, so I would like to see the letter with the edits.
Okay. So I will read this letter out. It was provided, like I mentioned this afternoon, with the update as it was an agenda item that was added this late afternoon. The subject is Lawrence Transit's submission to FTA's fiscal year 2022 low or no emission grant program and the grants for buses and bus facilities competitive program. On behalf of the City of Lawrence Sustainability Board, I am pleased to support the Lawrence Transit Systems Project, Electrify Lawrence Transit Phase 3, submitted in response to Federal Transit Administration's FTA's fiscal year 2022 low or no emission grant program and the grants for buses and bus facilities competitive program. The Sustainability Advisory Board advises the governing body of the City of Lawrence regarding issues affecting sustainability, environmental protection, waste reduction, recycling, energy conservation, and natural resource conservation, environmental protection. In 2020, we recommended the city adopt a goal of 100% renewable energy by 2035 for all city operations, including transportation fuel. This policy goal was supported by the community and passed the City Commission unanimously. This last paragraph on that letter that was posted on the agenda is the paragraph that was edited last year. The current paragraph reads, "We are excited to see Lawrence Transit making progress on this goal already with this application and look forward to seeing more buses in our community transporting people to their destinations without a trail of smoke coming from the tailpipes." And it would be signed by the chair. That last paragraph was edited last year. And just 1 second. To read, "We are excited to see Lawrence Transit making progress on this goal already with this application and look forward to seeing more buses in our community connecting people to their destinations in an efficient manner." So it's that last part of that paragraph that was changed. So instead of reading, "and look forward to seeing more buses in our community transporting people to their destinations without a trail of smoke coming from the tailpipes," it was edited to say, "Look forward to seeing more buses in our community connecting people to their destinations in an efficient manner."
This is Stan Rasmussen with the SAB. I would like that to say in a clean and efficient manner.
This is Sarah Chenoweth, SAB member. I clicked on the link to this letter in the agenda, and it has Kira's signature and the correct date, but that language has not changed, at least from the link on the agenda.
That's correct. This is Kathy Richardson, the Interim Sustainability Director. Once this letter was posted on the agenda and you were notified of the posting, one of our board members reached out to me, Stan, and he mentioned that this was discussed last year in August with Jasmine, and that the advisory board had approved this template letter to be used, but with that change to that last sentence. So if you would like to approve it, you can approve it with the edits and additional edits that the board may have. There's a lot of new board members here since that conversation.
This is Kay Johnson, Sustainability Advisory Board member. I'd like to make a motion that we revise the letter as Stan suggested with the edits, Kathy, that you'd mentioned, and approve this form letter through the remaining part of this year.
Nancy Muma, SAB member. I second Kay's motion.
Do we need to have more discussion or should we call a vote? Am I missing anybody who's trying to comment? No? All right. Should we go ahead and do a vote? Yeah. Okay. Sarah, what do you vote?
Aye.
Kay?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Stanley?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Mattie?
Aye.
And I vote aye too.
Deb Ford votes aye as well.
Oh crap, I'm sorry, Deb.
It's all good.
I'm trying to make my thing into I keep missing everybody, I'm sorry. All right, so that motion passes. Do you need any other input from us, Kathy?
This is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. Thanks for that action. I will get a signature from you, Kira, and then submit it by the 22nd, and then also make sure that Lawrence Transit has this template through the end of the year for any additional grants. I did hear this afternoon that this will be the only grant that is currently planned through the end of the year, but having that window of time helps. The other item I had tonight on some of the staff report items. Number one, I wanted to discuss, so the SAB board members had requested a tour of the HAM recycling facility and the household hazardous waste facility once it got warmer. And so I'm asking tonight to see what kind of schedule I can go ahead and work on for you to be able to tour both of those facilities. I understand that this has been a request since last year, so I really want to make it happen and happen soon now that it's warming up. So again, we will have to break the group up so that we don't run into any coma situations. But, you know, is there a day of the week that generally is easier for board members? Is it around the lunch hour? Is it at the end of the day? How would you like me to go ahead and schedule, you know, like 2 tour options for each one of these facilities?
I'm really interested in doing that, but I can't do it for about a month. So if we could schedule it for at least a month out, that would help me. But again, that's just me. I would like to hear from other people.
This has been Sikes Sav Board member Kathy. Would that availability be better provided through email, maybe individually to you of what our availability would be, and then cross-referenced or something like that?
You can do that too.
Things to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I can do a doodle poll. I can do that type of stuff. I just don't know if you wanted this to happen this month or in 4 months, or, you know, just give me at least a little bit of a window to be able to schedule this, because I really want to make it happen. I've had a few board members that have, you know, reached out a couple times on wanting these tours to happen.
Mattie Bell, SAP board member. I'm fine with waiting the month that Kira needs to be available to do the tour.
Yeah, this is Stan Rasmussen, SAB member. Perhaps you could propose some dates in June.
Okay.
Early June.
Sounds good. I will propose some dates and times. I don't know if it's, again, I know some of you work full time, so I'm not sure what you have available, and you'll, you know, likely just need to check your schedule for that month, but any direction on that is helpful. You can email me too with any thoughts. I just want to really make it happen for you all. So the next item I had was the update on the grants, which I've covered earlier in the meeting. The other item, I did have a conversation with Steve, and I wanted to share this with the full board because there is an update on this. Steve Kramer had asked me about commercial single stream recycling and the feasibility of that for the city of Lawrence. I did mention to him that we were working with a consultant to put together our solid waste rate model together, and we had a tight deadline earlier this year, and we were going to be on commission agenda mid-April to present those rates. And with the rate information, also the option for the city to expand to commercial single stream recycling program. Now, the update on that is the rates conversation has been postponed for later this year. So it is not going to happen in April. And, you know, we'll have a little bit more time to get, like Steve said, there might be some interest in the advisory board to provide, you know, some sort of advice or recommendation to the city commission. But at this time, it has not been scheduled that I know of, but I will let you know when it does get scheduled on the agenda for the city commission, but it will be later this year, so in a few months. In addition to that, I have received some questions about Earth Day activities. So just wanted everyone to know that we do have a Earth Day webpage that the city has been updating with activities that organizations have been putting together some activities. It's just the lawrenceks.org/Earth Day. And if you know of any activities that are not posted on this webpage, please let me know and we will include them. Some of these are activities that are happening in Kansas City with the Earth Day celebration there. And then we have some local activities as well. The city is really working with Friends of the Caw for that Saturday, April 23rd river cleanup. So that's going to be a pretty large event and hopefully lots of volunteers that show up to help us clean up around the riverbanks. In addition, one item that is not yet posted on this webpage, but some organizers here in town have already come together to get the permits and their planning underway for a sustainability science fair. The sustainability science fair will take place at South Park. It will be on Saturday, April the 23rd, and it will occur from 1 to 4. So the Friends of the Caw River cleanup is in the morning from 9 to 1, and those two events are kind of cross-promoting. So come, clean up at the riverbanks and then go to the celebration in South Park. Again, it's called Sustainability Science Fair, and I will be posting that information here soon. There are lots of links of, to participate in a lot of these events. There's information on the Earth Day wildflower planting event, Monarch Watch, etc. So that is available. And again, let me know of any of other activities that you know of that we can help promote.
Kay Johnson, Sustainability Advisory Board member. Thank you very much for doing that, Kathy. I appreciate it.
The other item on the staff report is the sustainability report for April. Again, I want to thank Kim Kreiner-Ritchie with Douglas County. She's the interim sustainability director, and she updated the report she had provided last month. So there is information for the board on the open space, common ground, solar regulations, climate action plan, the rural recycling information. One event that kind of started our Earth Month was the electronic recycling event. So that day we were out at that KU parking lot. We had almost 1,000 vehicles, so 936 vehicles that participated, and we collected 72,480 pounds of electronics. It was a beautiful day, actually. The weather was really nice. Lots of people upbeat, loved it. It was great to be out there and have this event. The next event for electronics recycling is slated for spring of 2023. There's also information on the food waste and, of course, social media. If you're not already following the Facebook page for Lawrence Douglas County Sustainability, I do recommend it, as a lot of this information and activities that are happening are being posted on that Facebook page. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Kay Johnson, Sustainability Advisory Board member. I had a representative from another organization ask me if the city could at any way help with gathering when students at KU move out. Evidently the sustainability department was totally eliminated from KU, and the sustainability group evidently coordinated a move out day so that all of the furniture and things that people didn't want, microwaves or whatever, would be stored in one place and anybody moving in could go get some so that they could use it. It was basically just a swap shop from what I understand. And evidently KU is totally given that up. So I don't, I said, well, I don't know that the city of Lawrence has the wherewithal to do that, but I would be glad to ask. So there's the ask.
This is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. I'm so glad that you brought up this topic. So in the past, the city and county and the community has, all seen what happens with the move out, not only within our community, but also on campus and the student areas around the campus. We have partnered with KU in the past, so some of their, move out programming and education has been huge, and we still need to make that connection this year as to what they're able to still provide to the students. So it has changed, Kay, like that's true that there have been some changes and reorganizations within KU, but I have made it a note for myself to reach out to KU and see how we can work together on that. In terms of the city, we already are working together with the communications office on all the communication pieces that come. So as early as May is when our insert hits, or actually the Flame newsletter has information about move out. So it's kind of getting people, for the big move out that happens in July, it's getting people hopefully organized 2 months before the big move on where to donate materials, how to reuse materials to use for packaging and so forth for their moves. So we have already started those conversations internally with the city, but I will reach out to KU.
This has been Sikes, Sav Board member. I would just say there is still nominally a Center for Sustainability at KU's campus. It's just made up of individual faculty members. There's no staff specifically associated with it. So there are still student groups as well as individual faculty members that are interested. Those might be good people to contact Kay or Kathy. On a separate topic, I actually had a question about something that you also had in the staff report, Kathy, which was on the solar regulations. I had somebody ask me actually whether or not SAB had weighed in formally on the regulations towards solar energy. I couldn't remember actually. I thought we had discussed it at one point, but I don't remember if we had as a board weighed in or if it was simply we were supposed to express our opinions as individuals in the community.
It is my understanding, and somebody else can correct me. This is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director, but for the meetings that have already occurred this year with the City Commission, that there was no formal communication from the Sustainability Advisory Board to the Douglas County Commission. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Are you waiting for me to talk, Kathy?
Yeah, this is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. So that was the staff report items. If you want to move on to your next agenda items.
Okay, so now should we move on to the agenda, the future agenda items? We already talked about the goal setting retreat. Does anybody feel like we need to talk more about that? Does anybody have their hand up and I'm missing it? No? Okay, so you have item B, invite each city commissioner to a SAB meeting?
This is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. This is an item that was discussed I had a conversation with Stan, who wanted, this to be added to that future agendas item as a possibility for the board to consider. In the past, the Sustainability Advisory Board had invited each commissioner to a meeting. And that way you have a conversation with each commissioner on sustainability and how the Sustainability Advisory Board could support the commission and so forth. And those were, great conversations. If the board would like to move on with something like this, or wait till the goal setting session to really define what you want to add to your agenda items, it's really up to the board.
This is Stan Rasmussen, SAB member. I kind of think that all of these topics would be good for us to discuss at a goal setting meeting. I don't know if we need to take the time to discuss them here, but it's my suggestion.
Nancy Muma, SAB member. I agree with Stanley. I think that this is something we should talk about at the retreat.
Mattie Bell, SAB board member. Would it be out of the question to invite city commissioners to talk to us at that retreat, so that we, like, during board meeting hours, we can do board meeting business?
This is Stan Rasmussen. I'll say we can ask whatever we want to ask, but I think the point of this suggestion was to invite each city commission member kind of one-on-one so that we could hear directly from them if they have any sustainability goals that they want to discuss, if they have ideas and suggestions for our board, and to give us an opportunity to hear directly from them. I think it would be difficult to get all of them to show up at our retreat to address us. That would have to be, advertised for them, advertised for us. It might be more of a challenge, but this way it would be a little more one-on-one time.
Mattie Bell, SAB board member. Thanks, Stan. Basically, yeah, I was kind of seeking information with that.
I like the idea of it a lot. I think that maybe we should talk to them after the retreat, just so that we're all kind of on message and on the same page. Because we do want to make the most of our time with them. And we do have some commissioners who just are not very savvy about the climate or the climate emergency, and whether or not they know it or like it, they are all climate crisis commissioners now. Everything the city does needs to be framed around the climate crisis, and is it an action that helps, or is it an action that adds to it? And they all need to be aware of this. And so I feel like this is a really important conversation for us to have with them. But I do think maybe we should have the retreat first. What do you guys think? Yeah, good. Yeah. Okay. We don't need to vote on that, do we? Because that's not an action item?
No.
No? Okay, where are you, Kathy? I've lost you on the screen. Do you feel okay about what we just decided, or what we were talking about?
This is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. Yeah, those future agenda items you can discuss at a later date. Your next agenda item is member updates.
Does anybody have any updates that you want to share? Anybody have any good news or any good shows that you're watching? Even anything cheerful. I'll take anything cheerful.
Yeah, this is Stan Rasmussen, SAB board member. I'll just let everybody know that on Tuesday, I'm going to Midwest Energy Policy Conference, and there's going to be presentations on kind of the transition of the energy industry, carbon capture projects, energy storage projects. The new EPA Region 7 Administrator, Meg McAllister, is going to speak. And there'll be some other presentations on wind regulation in Missouri, Kansas City's Climate Action Plan, things like that. At the end of the month, on April 27th, I'm giving a presentation at the Missouri Renewable Energy Conference on the Army's battery storage projects that we're doing at some of our installations around the country. And then I just want everybody to know that the Jayhawk Breakfast Rotary Club, which I'm a member of and was the president when we started this initiative, we are building a boardwalk out at the Baker Wetlands. And we're getting so close to being done with it. And we're hoping to have a ribbon cutting for that in May. And I'll let everybody know when that is in case you want to go out and see it. But it's a new boardwalk on the east side of the property in a forested wetland area. And it's over a quarter mile long. It's going to be fabulous. If you can get a wheelchair to the boardwalk, you can then use a wheelchair on the boardwalk. But it's going to be a little bumpy getting there. But I'm real excited about that for our community too. That's all I had on my update.
Mattie Bell, SAB board member. I'm familiar, I've seen the construction for that boardwalk, so I'm really excited to see it completed and get to walk on it.
Mattie, this is Stan Rasmussen. Last weekend, we put every tread on there. So it's fully treaded now. The last thing we have to do, and we have a work day scheduled next week, is we're putting on a short railing. It extends about 6 inches high, but it's to keep a wheelchair from rolling off the edge. And that railing will go on both sides for the entire length. So that'll take some time to do that. I think we put in over 12,000 screws last weekend. It was a big day, but I think we had 17 people out there working all day, and we at least got all the treads, the whole length. So we're getting closer.
Thanks, Stanley. Nancy?
So I have an update. I'm a member of the Sustainability Action Network, and we have a project where we're trying to communicate the importance of using reusable bags. And we have a billboard that's going up on Route 70 that encourages the public to bring their own bags. So that's our piece of education for the ban ideas.
Mattie Bell, Sustainability Advisory Board member. Just something, if you're watching this meeting later or whatever, or if you're a commissioner or not a commissioner, excuse me, a board member or a member of the public attending, Evergy has submitted an energy efficiency filing with the Kansas Corporation Commission. And it's under review by the commission, but you can submit public comment to them written and talk about why low utility bills are important to you, because the idea is getting Evergy's energy efficiency filing to include a pay-as-you-save program, which would lower utility costs for residents and renters via the pay-as-you-save program is it has certain requirements to fulfill it, but it would be through energy efficiency updates to utilities. And I think that's really cool and exciting because I love not paying a lot of money for my electricity and great, energy efficiency.
Mattie, is that through the Loud Light initiative?
I don't believe so. I heard about it from the Climate Energy Project, but it is anyone can submit public comment to the Kansas Corporation Commission or the KCC.
And how would people submit that comment?
That's a good question.
Sustainability
I would have to open the tab. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Mattie. I can get some links to Kathy or to Kira, whoever that could share those. I have been involved in a couple of discussions, and the concern is that the proposal that Evergy has submitted is a very bare minimum type of proposal, and it's certainly not robust like we would hope to see it, those of us that participate in energy efficiency. So it is really important that people look at that, read it, and I think Climate Energy Project has several links that I can easily provide that's on their website that sets the stage for discussion. And also the KCC does have the hearing schedule, I believe. I don't know exactly what the date is, but I can provide that too.
That's awesome. Thank you. Does anybody else have any other updates? Ben?
For SAB, I've read a really quick question for Kathy. Kathy, so I send you an email. I'm trying to track down an ordinance that was on urban gardening that was passed not too long ago, or at least is coming up before the commission. Can I send you that email asking the question about how to track it down?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I needed. Are we out of time, by the way?
This is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. Tonight, there's not another meeting that is occurring, so we've got a little bit more time.
Anybody have any other updates? No? All right, should we call the meeting to a close?
Kara, this is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. The next item on your agenda is public comment. And
sorry. Yeah.
And you'll want to call for public comment. But in addition to that, I just wanted to point out that I will continue to provide these written public comments within this section. I didn't see that had been done before, but there were 2 emails that were sent to the board for consideration on items.
How do we handle that when someone sends in an email? Do we just read it right now?
If anyone within the Sustainability Advisory Board would like to talk about those items, they can. I invited those 2 citizens to also attend this meeting if they wanted to provide additional context and information, and they could provide public comment live at this meeting. But otherwise, you've got the emails there. And like I said, you'll want to call for public comment in case somebody is attending the meeting right now that would like to provide comment.
Yeah, I'm going to open this to the public comment for sure. Kathy, the one about would you bring it to the board for consideration? That's a New York Times link and it's paywalled. Do you have it already opened? Can you tell me what it says?
I had provided a link that Mattie shared, which is where the research came from. Mattie, did you want to go over that information?
Mattie Bell, SAB board member. Sure. Basically, it's the research article that's being referenced in the New York Times article is a study conducted on the effects of a no-mow-may program in Wisconsin and surrounding areas, and the effects of it on bee populations. Basically, the idea is that residents opt in to not mow their lawns for the month of May because lawns can provide important early year nectar sources for bees, such as like clover in yards. And by not mowing, it allows the bees to access those resources, which can benefit bee populations. And since there is a global decline in insect populations, and bees are super important pollinators and very important for food and various other things, the program, like it's good to benefit bees, and so the program would do so. So the research article basically found that there's not a direct correlation, but there are increases in bee populations as like when there are no mow May programs, and this is also no mow May programs have also been implemented in the United Kingdom to positive effect. And yeah, I think that's it. I think the research article basically had to be like very careful about saying about whether they said there was a correlation or not, but there was like a improvement in bee populations, and even in seeing species that are threatened, like bee species that are threatened, seeing them in the areas that no mow May programs were taking place. But the New York Times article itself didn't discuss whether, like, how those programs had been implemented and what it meant for residents who opted in. I know that the city has rules about like lawn height and stuff, but maybe this is something that would be covered by the Noxious Weeds Ordinance updates, you know, because those are covering heights of certain plants.
That's great. Thank you. I think that fits perfectly in with the work Ben's doing. I know that for my own self, when I took my lawn out and I put in native perennial drought-resistant ground covers, I have like a crazy amount of bees and moths and fireflies. It's really, really pretty, especially at twilight. But you know, it's just anecdotally, but just firsthand from my experience, it's like the wild kingdom in my yard. It really does make a huge difference with putting in plants and getting rid of lawns. That's great. Thank you. Mattie, can I just say, we are all so thrilled that you are on the board. You have already just made the meeting so great. And I can tell that it's going to be great. All the next meetings are going to be great. We really appreciate you. We've really needed a youth perspective and a dynamic perspective. Do I need it? Oh, there's Michael. Sorry. Michael, do you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Kira. This is Michael Allman. I just wanted to point out that I put the Bee City USA link in your chat. So if you want to go to that source, it's right there. So thank you all for great work. Oh, and that initiative about May is from Wisconsin, I think Mattie mentioned. Their spring is later than ours. So really the time frame that would apply in Lawrence is more like now. So don't mow now or ever. Thanks.
Mattie Bell, SAB. Oh.
So no, go ahead, Mattie, sorry.
Mattie Bell, SAB board member. One of the things that was mentioned in both the New York Times article and the research article was how communities can, like, basically bringing up the question, how can communities further their like pro-bee and pro-pollinator activities or actions that they take? And also when no mow May programs were started, a lot of residents became more interested in how they could create like pro-bee environments in their urban, like in areas of urban areas and like their yards and stuff. So it could certainly be a thing for educational purposes. And honestly, I think this would be a pretty cool thing, even though like doing it now is when it's important. It might be something we could discuss during the retreat. It could also be like a lead up to declaring April Environmental Month for starting the 2023 year. I think it's a cool program, and I think it could be a great start to promoting bee health and safety, I guess.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's a great approach. It's a really good approach. Anything that we can do that is positive reinforcement rather than punitive, I feel like is really worthy and worthwhile. Oh, I closed the other email. Kathy, are we supposed to read that other email out loud?
This is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. No, you do not need to read it out loud, or, if you want to talk about it, you can. You don't need to. I did want to mention too, I'm getting some chats and I'm not quite understanding. So JT is with us in this meeting, and just asked if I was going to share public comment. And it sounds like, I don't know if there's an issue with the live stream of recording of this meeting. The question is, please tell me when live stream recording of this meeting will be posted to the city's YouTube channel. I'm not sure what is going on there, but I can certainly check into that. And it looks like Dawn, did you want to comment on that?
Oh, thank you. This is Dawn Hawkins, community member. I always forget that part. Yeah, the live stream isn't working tonight. I might have been lazy and just done that instead of participating if I had, so maybe for me, it got me more involved. But I also wanted to ask, I know I've addressed this before back when Jasmine was around, about the idea of opening up chat. Are other boards have their chat closed? I find that it's an efficient way to pass on information without interrupting the meeting, and a place where people can share links. Maybe the board is sharing a chat, but as a member of the public, I just want to request, if it's possible, if there's not some reason because of, I don't know, nefarious people, that chat could be opened up in future meetings. Thank you.
This is Kathy Richardson, Interim Sustainability Director. The reason that the chats are disabled are because those members of the public that are attending the meeting or viewing the meeting on the YouTube channel do not have access to that chat. So you have to register to see the chat. So for COMA reasons, we're not having a Sustainability Advisory Board conversation where others can't see what that conversation is. I hope that clarifies why the chat is disabled.
I see. Thank you.
Mattie Bell, Sustainability Advisory Board member. I think the second email, which I referenced earlier, it's about alternatives to a plastic bag ban. The email specifically is, it says, it's referring to the ban attempted by the state legislature. So it gives some examples of alternative plastic bag reduction initiatives, as I mentioned, in Canada and around the US. I think these are things that we could discuss during the retreat as well, since we decided that we wanted to discuss the plastic bag issue during the retreat.
Shoot, sorry. Sorry about that. My dog's going bananas. I think that's a good idea. I think we've got a lot of good stuff that we could talk about on the retreat. I have to get going. I'm sure you guys all have to get going too. Should we go ahead and adjourn the meeting? Does somebody want to pass a motion? Mattie, how about you? Because it's your first meeting. Why don't you sustain or do a motion?
Okay, I move to end the meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we're going to adjourn it. Hang in there, everybody. Have a good night.
All right.
Bye, thanks.